The first time Lieutenant Alex Chen heard the alien transmission, he thought someone was playing a prank. The scratchy voice coming through his F-35's comms didn't sound human, too many clicks and whistles between words, the cadence all wrong. Human vessel, identify yourself. You have entered restricted airspace. Alex checked his instruments again. According to mission briefing, he was exactly where he should be, running reconnaissance over international waters. His squadron had deployed from the USS Gerald Ford 3 days ago after reports of unusual activity in this sector. Unusual activity. That's what Command had called it. Not first contact with an alien species. This is Lieutenant Alex Chen of the United States Navy. I'm conducting authorized patrol operations in international airspace. He kept his voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding his system. Please identify yourself. The radio crackled for a long moment before the voice returned. Lieutenant Chen, this is Commander Vexlar of the Galactic Concordat Scout Vessel Horizon Seeker. You are currently flying through a security corridor established for diplomatic transport. Please alter your course immediately. Alex's grip tightened on the control stick. The Galactic what? His orders said nothing about this. He glanced at his radar, empty except for his wingman, Lieutenant Rivera, flying 2 miles east. Either his systems were being jammed, or whatever was out there used technology beyond human detection capabilities. Commander Vexlar, I'm not showing any other aircraft in my vicinity. Can you clarify your position? A new voice cut in Rivera. Chen, are you getting this? My instruments are going haywire. I'm picking up something massive about 3 miles north, but it's flickering. Before Alex could respond, the clouds ahead parted. What had seemed like an ordinary bank of cumulus suddenly revealed a sleek, silvery craft at least 3 times the size of an aircraft carrier. Its hull shimmered with an iridescent coating that seemed to bend light around it, some kind of advanced camouflage system. Holy! Alex whispered, instinctively dropping altitude as smaller craft began launching from the massive ship, each about the size of his F-35 but with a distinctly alien design. Swept forward wings connected to teardrop-shaped fuselages that glowed with blue energy at their rear sections. Lieutenant Chen, Commander Vexlar's voice returned, we apologize for the confusion. We were unaware that human military forces were active in this region. Our cloaking systems have clearly caused some navigation issues. Please maintain your current position while we establish a safe corridor for you to exit. Alex watched as 6 alien fighters formed up in a perfect hexagonal pattern around him. Each moved with impossible precision, maintaining exact distances despite the turbulent air currents. Rivera, you seen this? Alex asked, fighting to keep his breathing under control. Affirmative. I've got 6 more surrounding me. They're just watching. The alien fighters continued their escort formation, seemingly content to observe the human aircraft. Alex noticed how they adjusted their positions with microscopic corrections, never drifting more than a few centimeters from their assigned coordinates. Then, without warning, a massive storm cell erupted directly in their flight path. The alien ships immediately broke formation, scattering in pre-programmed escape vectors that sent them safely away from the turbulence. Alex had no such luxury. His F-35 bucked violently as it hit the edge of the storm. Warning alarms blared throughout the cockpit as the aircraft was tossed between powerful updrafts and downdrafts. Years of training kicked in. Instead of fighting the storm, Alex used it, rolling his aircraft into the currents, letting the massive energy flows carry him through in a series of maneuvers that no flight simulator could ever prepare a pilot for. The G-forces pressed him hard into his seat as he executed a modified Pugachev's Cobra, using the vertical energy of the storm to flip his aircraft end over end before catching a horizontal wind shear that shot him clear of the turbulence. As he emerged from the storm, leveling his aircraft with expert precision, Alex noticed the alien fighters had regrouped and were hovering nearby, completely stationary in the air. Impossible in Earth aircraft. Lieutenant Chen, Commander Vexlar's voice had changed, a note of something like respect or perhaps surprise evident even through the alien cadence. Our combat pilots would like to request a demonstration of those maneuvers you just performed. Our tactical systems indicate they should have exceeded your aircraft's structural limitations. Alex couldn't help the small smile that formed at the corner of his mouth. With all due respect, Commander, there's more to flying than what your tactical systems can calculate. Some things you can only learn by feeling the air beneath your wings. The silence that followed felt charged with possibility. Humanity's first real contact with an alien species, and it had come down to this, a test of skill in the endless blue sky, where a human pilot had just shown the visitors from the stars that Earth still had a few surprises up its sleeve. The alien fighters hovered in formation, their engines emitting a barely audible hum that was nothing like the roar of Alex's F-35. Through his canopy, he could make out more details of their design, sleek, almost organic curves with no visible rivets or panel lines. The material seemed to flow like liquid metal, yet hold rigid form. Lieutenant Chen, remain in position. We're dispatching a diplomatic shuttle. Commander Vexlar's voice had taken on a more formal tone. Alex glanced at his fuel gauge. Sir, I appreciate the invitation, but I'm operating under orders. I need to complete my patrol and return to carrier. A new voice cut in deeper, with a resonant quality that somehow conveyed authority even through the strange accent. Lieutenant, this is Admiral Carax of the Concordat fleet. What you demonstrated in that storm cell is of significant interest to us. We request 1 hour of your time. Alex swallowed hard. His standing orders were clear: maintain distance from unknown craft and return to base immediately to report. But this wasn't exactly covered in the manual. First contact scenarios were theoretical exercises at the academy, not something pilots expected to handle alone over open ocean. Rivera, you copy that? Alex asked over their secure channel. Every word. Rivera's voice was tight with tension. Command needs to know about this yesterday, Chen. But if you go with them, we've got no guarantee they'll let you leave. Before Alex could respond, his radar lit up with multiple new contacts, approaching fast from the west. Lieutenant Chen, Admiral Carax spoke again. Your military has detected our presence and is sending reinforcements. Our diplomatic mission cannot risk engagement. We must depart immediately. Alex checked his instruments. Sure enough, a squadron of fighters was inbound, probably Skrull. Bled from the carrier once Rivera had reported the situation. Standard protocol. I understand, Admiral. Perhaps we can arrange a more formal meeting through proper channels. There was a pause before the alien responded. The Concordat has been observing Earth for some time, Lieutenant. We've monitored your global communications, studied your conflicts, analyzed your technological development. But what you did in that storm, using instinct where our pilots rely on computational assistance, this is something our data didn't predict. The alien fighters began to move, rearranging into an escort formation around what appeared to be a command ship emerging from the massive carrier. Admiral, if you've been watching us, then you know we're not a threat, Alex said, improvising diplomacy as best he could. We're just protective of our world. Wouldn't you be? A sound came through the radio that might have been laughter, or something like it. Indeed, Lieutenant. More protective than you realize. The reason we've remained hidden isn't fear of your weapons, but concern for how knowledge of us would affect your civilization's development. You humans are unpredictable. Alex's attention was diverted by a secure transmission from the approaching squadron. Unidentified aircraft. This is Captain Reeves of the United States Navy. Lieutenant Chen, Lieutenant Rivera, respond on secure channel and prepare to form up. I need to respond to my commanding officer, Alex told the aliens. Of course, Admiral Carax replied. But before we depart, know this. What you demonstrated today wasn't just impressive flying. It reveals something fundamental about human adaptive capability that the Concordat has been debating for decades. Some believe your species represents a significant evolutionary branch, one with both tremendous potential and risk. The alien vessels began to shimmer, the same light-bending effect gradually enveloping them. Sir, what do you mean by risk? Alex asked quickly. Your kind adapts through intuition and improvisation where other species rely on calculation and protocol. In the 5,000 years since the Concordat formed, We've encountered only 2 other species with similar traits. Both eventually developed into galactic powers. One became our greatest allies. The other, the transmission crackled with interference as Captain Reeves' squadron drew closer. The other what? Alex pressed. Admiral Cox's voice became somber. The other nearly destroyed us, Lieutenant. They called themselves the Meridian, and their capacity for creative warfare outpaced even their remarkable technological achievements. Alex watched as the alien ships faded further from view, their outlines now just distortions in the sky. There's a faction within the Concordat that sees humanity as potential Meridians. They advocate for containment protocols rather than contact. Today, you've given me evidence to argue against them, to suggest that human creativity and intuition can be channeled toward cooperation rather than conquest. The radar signatures of the alien craft were disappearing one by one. We'll be watching your career with interest, Lieutenant Chin. Perhaps next time, we'll have that formal meeting. And then they were gone, vanished completely from both visual and instrument detection. All that remained were the approaching Navy fighters and the churning storm cell in the distance. Chen Rivera, form up and prepare to return to carrier, Captain Reeves ordered, his voice hard with tension. And someone better have a damn good explanation for what just happened out here. Alex took a deep breath, adjusting his heading to join the squadron. How exactly was he supposed to explain this? That aliens had been monitoring Earth? That they were divided on whether humans represented a threat or an opportunity? That his impromptu storm flying had somehow become an interstellar diplomatic incident? As he banked his aircraft, Alex caught sight of something glinting in the clouds, just for a moment, before it too vanished. Whatever the Concordat was, whoever these Meridians had been, one thing was clear: humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their place in it might well depend on the difference between instinct and calculation, between courage and caution. And somehow, that difference had been demonstrated in the way a Navy pilot flew through a storm. 6 weeks had passed since the encounter with the Concordat ships. 6 weeks of debriefings, polygraph tests, and psychological evaluations. Alex sat alone in a windowless conference room at the Pentagon, drumming his fingers on the polished table while waiting for yet another panel of stone-faced officials to question him about every detail of the alien contact. The door finally opened, but instead of the expected committee, a single man in a charcoal suit entered. He looked to be in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and the careful movements of someone who'd spent time in the field before moving to a desk. Lieutenant Chin. I'm Director Harlow, Special Projects Division. He didn't offer a handshake, just placed a thin folder on the table and sat down. I've read your report 17 times. Watched your debriefing videos twice that many. Alex straightened in his chair. Sir. You know what the hardest part to believe is? Harlow opened the folder, revealing photos of strange radar signatures captured by the USS Gerald Ford. Not the aliens. Not their cloaking technology. Not even their interest in human pilots. He looked up, eyes narrowing. It's that they just left. Made contact and disappeared. They seemed concerned about escalation, sir. When our fighters approached, yes, I know what you reported. Harlow waved a dismissive hand. What I'm telling you is they didn't leave. The air in the room seemed to grow thicker. Sir? 3 days ago, a research station in Antarctica detected an energy signature matching the radiation profile you described from the alien engines. Yesterday, similar readings appeared off the coast of Japan. An hour ago, our satellite network experienced a 12-second blackout over North America. He slid a satellite image across the table. This was taken just before the blackout. Alex leaned forward to examine the photo. At first glance, it showed nothing but clouds over the Pacific. But as he looked closer, he could make out the faint outline of something massive, the same distortion effect he'd seen when the alien ships cloaked. They're still watching us, Alex said quietly. Not just watching anymore. We believe they're actively scanning our defense systems, testing our detection capabilities. Harlow's expression remained neutral, but his voice tightened. Which brings me to why you're here. The President has authorized the formation of a new task force, pilots specifically trained to engage with this technology if necessary. Engage? Sir, with all due respect, their technology is far beyond ours. But they showed remarkable interest in your flying, Lieutenant. You did something their computers couldn't predict. Something that made them pause. Harlow leaned forward. We need to understand what that was. 3 days later, Alex found himself at Edwards Air Force Base, standing on the tarmac before dawn with 11 other pilots from various branches of the military. Each had been selected for their exceptional flight records, particularly in situations where they'd outperformed simulation predictions or survived scenarios deemed unsurvivable by flight computers. A woman with short gray hair and colonel's insignia approached the group. I'm Colonel Diane Hayes. For the next 2 weeks, you'll be flying the most classified training exercises in military history. What we're attempting has never been done, developing tactics specifically to counter technology we barely understand. She gestured toward a hangar where technicians were wheeling out what looked like modified sensor pods. These contain replicated emissions matching what Lieutenant Chen observed from the alien craft. Based on their maneuvering capabilities, we've developed simulation parameters that approximate their flight characteristics. Alex exchanged glances with Rivera, who had also been selected for the program. They'd flown countless missions together, but the look on his friend's face mirrored his own uncertainty. The training pushed them beyond anything Alex had experienced before. They flew without computer assistance, practiced maneuvers that stressed both aircraft and pilots to their limits, and developed tactics that relied on human unpredictability rather than optimal flight paths. After each session, their performance was analyzed against predictive algorithms to identify patterns that broke computational models. On the 10th day, as they prepared for the afternoon exercise, alarms blared across the base. Colonel Hayes burst into the ready room, her usual composure visibly shaken. We've got a situation. Concordat vessels have decloaked over 3 major cities simultaneously, London, Beijing, and Washington, D.C. They're hovering in plain sight, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. The pilots gathered around a screen as she pulled up the feed. The message was simple, delivered in the now familiar voice of Admiral Kx. To the leaders of Earth, the Galactic Concordat extends greetings. We have observed sufficient evidence of your species' potential to warrant formal contact. However, we must also inform you that another faction has arrived in your system, those who believe humanity represents a meridian-level threat. They seek to implement containment protocols before direct diplomatic relations can be established. We strongly advise against military engagement. Your weapons cannot affect their vessels. Colonel Hayes muted the broadcast. The President is attempting communication with the Concordat ships over D.C. Meanwhile, we've detected another group of vessels approaching Earth's atmosphere. Based on their energy signatures, they don't match the Concordat design. The other faction, Alex said, the Admiral's warning echoing in his mind. Exactly. And they're heading straight for us. Colonel Hayes brought up a tactical display showing multiple objects on approach to Edwards. Whatever impressed them about your flying, Lieutenant, they're coming to see it firsthand. Your squad is being scrambled immediately. Within minutes, Alex was strapped into an experimental F-35 variant with enhanced engines and stripped-down electronics. The modifications had been part of their training, reducing computerized flight systems in favor of direct pilot control. As he taxied toward the runway, the sky darkened unnaturally overhead. All pilots, be advised, came the controller's voice, tight with tension. Unknown craft descending to 80,000 feet and dropping. Current count is 16 vessels, configuration unknown. You are cleared for emergency takeoff. As Alex pushed the throttle forward and felt the surge of acceleration pressing him back into his seat, he caught sight of something breaking through the clouds above, angular ships with harsh lines unlike the smooth curves of the Concordat vessels. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating the impression of flying voids in the sky. Contact in 30 seconds, Rivera called over the radio as their squadron climbed rapidly to intercept. Anyone else notice they're forming up exactly like we do? Standard combat spread. Alex realized with a chill that Rivera was right. These ships weren't just approaching, They were mirroring human military formation tactics perfectly. They'd been studying more than just his storm flying. All aircraft, this is Colonel Hayes. We've received transmission from the approaching vessels. They identify as Concordat Security Division. They claim. Her voice faltered for a moment. They claim they're here to evaluate whether humanity qualifies as a Meridian-level threat requiring immediate intervention. What kind of intervention? Someone asked. The colonel's response was cut off as all radio communications suddenly went dead. Alex's instrument panel flickered, then stabilized. The alien vessels had accelerated downward and were now spreading out to surround the human squadron. In that moment, Alex understood with perfect clarity what was happening. This wasn't a diplomatic mission or even a show of force. It was a test, and likely one that humanity wasn't meant to pass. Whatever he had done in that storm weeks ago had triggered something far bigger than he could have imagined. One of the alien ships broke formation, accelerating directly toward him. As it closed the distance, a voice cut through the radio silence, different from Cake's, colder and precisely measured. Lieutenant Alexander Chin. You have been selected as humanity's representative in trial by combat. The Meridian protocols require demonstration of tactical capability before containment authorization. You may select 2 wingmen. All others must land immediately. Alex's grip tightened on the controls as the alien craft pulled up alongside his aircraft, close enough that he could see the strange, shifting patterns on its hull. The implied threat was clear. This trial would determine not just his fate, but potentially Earth's. What happens if I refuse? Alex asked, keeping his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through his system. The alien craft pulsed once with a deep red light. Refusal confirms Meridian pattern aggression potential. Immediate containment would be authorized. Below, he could see military vehicles converging on the base, anti-aircraft systems coming online despite Colonel Hayes's likely orders to stand down. Whatever these aliens considered containment, Alex had no doubt it would trigger a global military response, exactly the scenario Admiral Carax had warned about. I accept the trial, Alex said, making a split-second decision. Rivera and Jackson as my wingmen. As if in response, the sky darkened further as more alien ships descended through the clouds. Among them, Alex recognized the distinctive outline of Concordat vessels, Admiral Carax's faction arriving to witness the confrontation they had tried to prevent, the alien ship. Alongside him peeled away suddenly, climbing with impossible speed. Trial parameters established. You will pursue and demonstrate superior tactical capability against 3 Security Division interceptors. Weapons systems are deactivated on both sides. Combat area is restricted to the mountain range 50 kilometers north. Failure to demonstrate non-Meridian cognitive patterns will result in immediate implementation of containment protocols. Alex switched to his squadron's backup frequency, hoping it wasn't being monitored. Rivera, Jackson, form on me. Everyone else, land now. That's an order. As the rest of the squadron reluctantly broke away toward the runway, Alex led his wingmen toward the designated area where 3 alien craft waited. The mountains below would provide challenging terrain, exactly what had distinguished his storm flying from the aliens' computational approach. Listen up, he told his wingmen as they approached. These guys fly on perfect mathematical solutions. Our advantage is that we don't. We're inconsistent, we're intuitive, we take risks their algorithms can't predict. That's what this is about. The alien ships began to move as they approached, splitting apart in a textbook defensive formation. Whatever this trial was, humanity's fate might well hang on how 3 pilots flew their jets against an advanced alien species that saw them as a potential threat to the galaxy, and despite everything, despite the impossible stakes and the technological gap between their civilizations, Alex felt a strange calm settle over him. This wasn't about technology at all. It was about the one thing humans had always relied on when faced with overwhelming odds, the ability to do the unexpected. Let's show them how humans fly, he said, pushing his aircraft into a steep dive toward the mountains below. Alex's F-35 screamed toward the jagged mountains, with Rivera and Jackson tight on his wings. The 3 alien interceptors tracked their descent, maintaining perfect formation despite the rapidly approaching terrain. Unlike human pilots who would typically hang back to assess their opponents, these alien craft matched their every move with mechanical precision. "They're mirroring us," Rivera called out. "Every turn, every adjustment, they're copying our formation exactly." "Good," Alex replied, a plan forming. "That's what we need. On my mark, break pattern. Jackson, go high. Rivera, hug the canyon wall. I'm going straight through." The alien vessels were now close enough that Alex could see the strange light patterns rippling across their hulls, some kind of communication or perhaps tactical display. As the mountains rushed up to meet them, he waited until the last possible second. Mark. The three human jets suddenly split in three entirely different directions. Jackson pulled up sharply, climbing almost vertically. Rivera banked hard right, threading between two cliff faces. Alex drove straight ahead, dropping even lower until he was skimming just feet above a winding river that cut through the canyon floor. For a crucial moment, the alien craft hesitated, their perfect formation breaking as their systems apparently struggled to decide which human to follow. Then they too split apart, each choosing to pursue one of the Earth pilots. "They've separated," Jackson confirmed. "I've got one on my tail. It's good. Matching my climb exactly." Alex checked his 6. One of the black angular ships was following him down the canyon, keeping pace with unnerving precision. "Stay unpredictable. Don't give them time to calculate." He banked suddenly around a bend in the canyon, then rolled inverted, flying upside down while maintaining his altitude above the river. The alien craft followed, executing the same maneuver with flawless technique but a fraction of a second too late, evidence they were reacting rather than anticipating. "I'm running a challenge pattern through the eastern ridge," Rivera reported. "My pursuer's keeping pace, but it's following, not leading." That was it, Alex realized. These machines, or whatever was piloting them, were calculating responses based on observed data. They could match anything humans did, but they couldn't predict what a human would do next. Each unpredictable choice forced them to recalculate. "New plan," Alex said. "We need to." A massive shadow suddenly darkened the canyon. Alex looked up to see another ship descending, far larger than the interceptors and with the distinctive curved hull of Admiral Cax's Concordat faction. Its presence threw a new variable into the trial. "Lieutenant Chin." Admiral Cax's voice cut through their comms. "The security division has violated protocol. This trial is invalid." The security division interceptor on Alex's tail suddenly accelerated, pulling alongside him rather than pursuing. Its hull pulsed with angry red patterns. "Interference is not permitted," a new voice stated, cold and precise. "The Meridian evaluation proceeds as established." "This is not a Meridian evaluation," Karax countered. "The human pilots have already demonstrated non-Meridian thought patterns. They collaborate rather than dominate. They defend rather than conquer." Alex kept his aircraft steady, flying through the canyon while the alien vessels seemed locked in their own conflict. Whatever political struggle was happening between these factions, it was playing out above Earth's skies with his planet's future at stake. The security division ship abruptly banked away from Alex, climbing toward Karax's vessel. 5 more interceptors appeared, converging on the larger Concordat ship. "All human aircraft, return to base immediately," Karax ordered. "The security division is attempting to force a Meridian classification to justify preemptive measures." "What the hell does that mean?" Jackson asked over their private channel. Before Alex could respond, a blinding flash lit up the sky as one of the security division ships fired on Karax's vessel. The energy beam cut through the air, leaving a superheated trail of ionized particles. "Return to base," Alex told his wingmen. "That's an order." "And leave you here?" "Not happening, Chin," Rivera shot back. "This isn't our fight," Jackson added. "We need to report back." The conflict above intensified as more Concordat ships appeared, exchanging fire with the security division vessels. Whatever political disagreement existed between these factions had just escalated to open warfare, with Earth caught in the middle. Alex made a split-second decision. "New plan. We need to prove we're not these Meridians they're so afraid of. If they're fighting about whether we're a threat, let's show them we're not. He banked his aircraft hard, climbing out of the canyon toward the aerial battle. Rivera and Jackson followed without hesitation. Chen, what exactly are you planning? Rivera asked. Something unpredictable, Alex replied, pushing his engines to maximum thrust. As they approached the alien conflict, Alex noticed something odd. The security division ships were focusing all their attacks on KX's command vessel, ignoring the other Concordat ships. This wasn't a battle, it was an assassination attempt. They're targeting the Admiral, he realized aloud. This whole trial was a setup to get rid of him. Another energy beam struck KRX's ship, sending it listing to one side. Smoke, or something like it, trailed from the wounded vessel as it began losing altitude. Alex switched his radio to broadcast on the frequency the aliens had used earlier. This is Lieutenant Chen to all Concordat vessels. We're moving to assist Admiral KX. Please acknowledge. No response came, but the pattern of fire shifted. Two security division ships broke off their attack on the Admiral and turned toward the approaching human fighters. I think we got their attention, Jackson said dryly. Rivera, Jackson, split and distract. I'm going for the Admiral's ship. They separated again, this time with purpose. The pursuing alien craft hesitated once more, their programming seemingly confused by humans willingly flying into danger rather than away from it. Alex pushed his F-35 to its limits, threading between energy beams as he closed the distance to Carax's damaged vessel. The ship was now trailing a visible wake of particles, descending toward the mountains in what looked like a controlled crash. Admiral Cax, this is Lieutenant Chen. I'm approaching your starboard side. Do you require assistance? For several long seconds, only static answered him. Then, Lieutenant, your intervention is unexpected. That's kind of our thing, Alex replied, maneuvering his aircraft alongside the massive alien ship. Up close, he could see the damage, a gaping hole torn through one section, the strange metal of the hull flowing like liquid as it attempted to repair itself. The security division will not permit you to assist, Karax warned. They will fire upon your aircraft. As if on cue, warning alarms blared in Alex's cockpit as targeting systems locked onto his jet. One of the security division ships was closing fast, weapons charging. Lieutenant Chin, a cold voice cut through the radio. Interference with Concordat internal matters confirms Meridian behavior patterns. Containment protocols authorized. The security division ship fired, not at Kex, but at Alex's F-35. Time seemed to slow as Alex registered the energy beam cutting through the air toward him. No evasive maneuver would be fast enough. No countermeasure would stop it. Then something impossible happened. Carax's damaged vessel suddenly accelerated, inserting itself between Alex and the incoming beam. The energy weapon struck the already wounded ship, tearing through its compromised hull. The massive vessel shuddered, secondary explosions cascading along its length. Admiral, Alex called out, banking away from the stricken ship. Your species is worth saving, Lieutenant. Cax's voice came through, broken by static. The Council must know what happened here. The Concordat flagship began to break apart, sections of its hull separating as systems failed. But even as it disintegrated, its weapons came online, firing at the security division vessels with surprising accuracy for a dying ship. All human aircraft, clear the area, Cax ordered, his voice fading. What comes next is not for your world to witness. Above them, the sky rippled as dozens, then hundreds, of new ships emerged from cloaked positions. These were different from both the Concordat and Security Division vessels, with distinctive gold and blue markings along their hulls. The Council observers, Carax explained. They've been monitoring the entire incident. The Security Division didn't know. The Security Division ships immediately broke off their attack, attempting to flee, but the new arrivals moved with astonishing speed to surround them. Lieutenant, Carax continued, his transmission weakening, you must return to your base. When the Council makes contact, tell them what you witnessed. Tell them humans chose to aid rather than exploit. Tell them, The transmission cut out as the Admiral's ship finally succumbed to its damage, breaking into 3 large sections that began plummeting toward the mountains below. "Chen, we need to go," Rivera called urgently. "Whatever's happening up there is way beyond us now." Alex watched as the Council ships encircled the remains of Caix's vessel, strange energy fields extending to contain the falling debris. The Security Division ships were being systematically disabled, their angular forms going dark one by one. This was never about a trial, Alex realized aloud. This was a coup attempt. The Security Division was trying to eliminate Orcs before the Council could hear his recommendation about Earth. As they turned their aircraft back toward Edwards, the radio crackled once more. A new voice, neither Orcs nor the Security Division, spoke with calm authority. "Human pilots, this is High Arbiter Televen of the Galactic Concordat Council. What we have witnessed today will not be forgotten. Return to your people. We will contact your leaders directly." The 3 pilots flew in stunned silence back toward the base, where dozens of military vehicles and personnel had gathered on the tarmac. As they approached, Alex noticed something else: civilian news helicopters hovering at the perimeter. Camera lenses pointed skyward, capturing footage of the alien ships still visible in the distance. "So much for keeping this classified," Jackson muttered. First contact had just become first conflict. An alien civil war had erupted in Earth's skies. And somehow, the actions of 3 human pilots had just placed humanity squarely in the middle of a galactic political crisis that had been brewing for centuries. As they prepared to land, Alex couldn't help but wonder if saving Admiral Caix had been the right call. Had they just allied Earth with one faction of an alien civilization they barely understood? Or had they demonstrated exactly what Orcs had claimed, that humans could use their unpredictability for something other than conquest? The radio crackled once more as they lined up for landing. "Lieutenant Chen," the Council Arbiter's voice returned. "One final matter. The Security Division was correct about one thing. Your species does indeed match the profile of the Meridians in many concerning ways." Alex tensed, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "What they failed to note," the Arbiter continued, "is that before their fall, the Meridians were our most trusted allies. Their creative potential led to our greatest era of peace. Admiral Caix believed humans might follow a similar path without repeating their mistakes. His sacrifice suggests he was correct." As his wheels touched down on the runway, Alex caught a final glimpse of the alien vessels. The Council ships were departing, vanishing into the clouds with the disabled Security Division vessels in tow. Whatever came next would change human history forever, and it had all started with a routine patrol and an unexpected storm. 3 days after the aerial confrontation, Alex found himself in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by military brass, intelligence officials, and the president herself. The screens around them display live satellite imagery of 12 Concordat Council vessels in stationary orbit around Earth, their presence now public knowledge after footage of the battle had spread across every news network globally. "Lieutenant Chen," the president addressed him directly, "you've had more direct contact with these beings than anyone else on Earth. The Council's Arbiter has requested you be present for the first official diplomatic meeting." Alex shifted uncomfortably in his formal uniform. "Madam President, I'm a pilot, not a diplomat." "Today you're both," she replied simply. Their message was specific. They want the human who aided Admiral Caix to attend. For hours later, Alex stood on the south lawn beside the president and her security detail as a small shuttle craft descended from the clouds. Unlike the angular Security Division ships or the flowing curves of Caix's vessel, this craft had an elegant symmetry, hexagonal in design with golden light pulsing along geometric patterns on its hull. As the craft touched down, a section of its side simply dissolved, revealing 3 figures. The central one, clearly the Arbiter Televen, stood nearly 7 feet tall with a slender build. Their skin had a subtle iridescence that shifted colors with movement, somewhere between reptilian and avian in appearance. The 2 flanking figures appeared to be guards, their forms more muscular and adorned with ceremonial armor. "Madam President," the Arbiter spoke, their voice melodious yet carrying an undeniable authority. "Lieutenant Alexander Chen. On behalf of the Galactic Concordat Council, I extend formal greetings to Earth. The President stepped forward. We welcome you to Earth, Arbiter. We have much to discuss. Indeed. The Arbiter's gaze shifted to Alex. Beginning with the debt the Concordat owes Lieutenant Chin, and by extension, humanity. The diplomatic meeting that followed was broadcast to billions around the world. The Arbiter explained in measured terms how the Concordat had been monitoring Earth for centuries, debating whether to make contact. Admiral Carax had led the faction advocating for diplomatic relations, while the Security Division had pushed for containment, or worse. The Security Division believed your species might follow the Meridian path, the Arbiter explained to the assembled world leaders. The Meridians were once our closest allies, brilliant, creative, unpredictable. Like humans, they could intuit solutions that our most advanced computation systems couldn't predict. Images appeared on screens around the room, beings not unlike humans in basic form, though with distinct differences in their cranial structure and skin tone. For 1,000 years, our civilizations flourished together. The Meridians' creative approach to science and culture complemented our methodical development. But their unpredictability extended to their political systems as well. A faction rose that believed they should rule rather than cooperate. They weaponized the very creativity we had admired. The Arbiter's color shifted to deeper blues. The resulting conflict nearly destroyed both our civilizations. When it ended, the Meridian worlds were devastated, their survivors scattered across the galaxy. Since then, the Concordat has been cautious about species with similar traits. So the Security Division wanted to prevent history from repeating itself, the President observed. But Admiral Cax believed otherwise. He saw in humanity the creativity of the Meridians, but also a capacity for self-sacrifice that the Meridians had lost. Your actions proved him correct, Lieutenant Chen. The Arbiter turned to Alex. When offered the choice between self-preservation and aiding others, you chose the latter. 1 week later, Alex was back in the cockpit, flying escort alongside Rivera and Jackson as a Concordat diplomatic vessel made its approach to the newly established First Contact facility in Nevada. After the initial meetings, things had moved with surprising speed. Exchange of basic technologies had begun, particularly medical and environmental restoration systems that Earth desperately needed. This still feels surreal, Rivera commented over their private channel as they banked around the alien craft. 3 weeks ago we were running combat drills. Now we're babysitting alien diplomats. Don't get too comfortable, Jackson replied. From what I've heard, the Security Division still has supporters in the Concord. Not everyone's happy about this alliance. Alex was about to respond when his radar displayed an anomaly, a heat signature approaching from high altitude, too small for satellite tracking to have caught it earlier. Control, we have an unidentified object approaching from Vector 140, dropping fast, he reported. Concordat vessel, be advised of incoming. Before Alex could finish, the object accelerated to impossible speed. A Security Division attack drone, far smaller than their ships but just as lethal, had slipped through Earth's defenses. It fired a single pulse of energy directly at the diplomatic vessel. Without hesitation, Alex pushed his aircraft into the path of the beam, knowing full well his F-35 couldn't survive the impact. Better one pilot than the 24 diplomats and scientists aboard the Concordat craft. As the energy beam closed the distance, he closed his eyes, thinking of his family, of Earth's future. The impact never came. Instead, his aircraft shuddered as something grabbed it, a field of energy surrounding his jet, holding it in place. The attack drone's weapon discharged harmlessly into the sky, its targeting systems apparently confused. Lieutenant Chen, the Arbiter's voice came through his comms, your aircraft is secure. We anticipated this possibility. As Alex watched in amazement, the diplomatic vessel extended what looked like tendrils of golden light that enveloped the attack drone. The drone struggled briefly before its systems went dark, captured rather than destroyed. That's twice you've been willing to sacrifice yourself for beings not of your world, the Arbiter observed as the diplomatic craft resumed its approach, towing the disabled drone. The Council will be most interested in this pattern. 2 months passed. Earth changed more rapidly than anyone could have anticipated. With limited Concordat technology now available, advances in medicine, energy production, and environmental restoration accelerated decades beyond previous projections. The Security Division's attempted strike had backfired completely, convincing the Council to fast-track Earth's provisional membership in the Concordat. For Alex, life had become a whirlwind of diplomatic functions, technological briefings, and test flights of aircraft incorporating elements of alien design. Today, however, was different. The Arbiter had requested a private meeting at the contact facility. Lieutenant Chen, the Arbiter greeted him in what had become their customary fashion, a slight bow with open palms. I appreciate your coming alone as requested. Of course, Arbiter. Is something wrong? The Arbiter's color shifted to a hue ale. X had never seen before, something between purple and black that seemed to absorb light. Not wrong, precisely. But it is time for you to know the complete truth. The alien gestured toward a secure room where a holographic display activated, showing a star map of the galaxy. Specific regions were highlighted in different colors. The Concordat spans approximately 17% of this galaxy, the Arbiter explained. Other civilizations control similar territories. Some are allies, some neutral, some hostile. Alex nodded, familiar with this basic information from briefings. What we have not shared, the Arbiter continued, is this. The map shifted, zooming in on a region at the galaxy's edge. A cluster of stars illuminated in a distinctive red pattern. The Meridians did not disappear entirely, Lieutenant. A faction survived, rebuilding in secret over millennia. Our intelligence indicates they have developed technologies even the Concordat cannot match. They remain hidden, but their influence has been detected in multiple sectors. A chill ran down Alex's spine. Why tell me this? Because of what we discovered in Admiral Carax's final transmission. The Arbiter's voice softened. Before his ship was destroyed, he sent encrypted data to the Council. Analysis confirmed something the Security Division had suspected but could not prove. The Meridians have been watching Earth for far longer than the Concordat. The hologram shifted again, displaying archaeological images from various human civilizations, ancient structures, artifacts with unusual properties, unexplained technological anomalies throughout history. We believe the Meridians have been influencing human development for thousands of years. Subtle guidance at crucial moments in your history. The question is why? Alex stared at the images, mind racing. Are you saying human creativity isn't natural? That we were engineered? Quite the opposite. The Arbiter's color shifted again, this time to a calm blue. We believe the Meridians recognized something in primitive humans that reminded them of themselves, a spark of creative potential. They merely nurtured it. To what end? That remains unknown. But there is something else you should see. The Arbiter manipulated the controls, bringing up genetic data. When you aided Admiral Carax, standard protocol required biological sampling. Your DNA was compared to our database. Alex watched as his genetic profile appeared alongside another, distinctly alien yet with unmistakable similarities in key regions. This is Meridian genetic code, the Arbiter explained. The correlation exceeds random chance by several orders of magnitude. What are you saying? Alex asked, though he already suspected the answer. The Meridians didn't just influence human development, Lieutenant. They interbred with your ancestors. Approximately 5% of humans carry significant Meridian genetic markers. You carry more than most. The revelation hit Alex like a physical blow. So the Security Division was right. We are Meridians. Partially, the Arbiter corrected. But combined with uniquely human characteristics. Your species has the creative potential of the Meridians without their tendency toward dominance. You create art alongside weapons. You explore for knowledge, not just resources. When Admiral Carax recognized this balanced potential in you, he dedicated himself to ensuring Earth would not be subject to containment protocols. Alex processed this information slowly. Does the Council know you're telling me this? The Council directed me to do so. The arbiter's tone became more formal. Lieutenant Chen, the Concordat faces growing threats from multiple fronts. The remaining meridians have begun moving again after millennia of silence. Other powers seek to exploit this instability. We believe Earth, and specifically humans with meridian heritage, may be the key to preventing another galactic conflict. How? You can think like them without becoming them. The Arbiter gestured to the star map again. The Council is establishing a new division, humans and Concordat members working together to understand and potentially contact the surviving meridians. We believe you are uniquely qualified to lead the human contingent. Alex stared at the swirling galaxy map, the weight of this revelation settling on his shoulders. What had begun as a chance encounter during a routine patrol had cascaded into a discovery that reframed human history and perhaps humanity's future among the stars. There is one final thing you should know, the Arbiter added. Admiral Carax's ship was not completely destroyed. Alex looked up sharply. What? His consciousness was transferred to a backup system moments before the critical failure. It is standard procedure for Concordat command staff. The Arbiter's color brightened. He has requested to speak with you should you accept this assignment. As if on cue, a new hologram formed, the familiar figure of Admiral Carax, though slightly translucent. Lieutenant Chen, the Admiral greeted him. It seems my faith in you was not misplaced. Alex found himself speechless, looking between the Arbiter and the Admiral's holographic form. The choice is yours, the Arbiter said. Return to your previous duties, or join us in perhaps the most important diplomatic mission in Concordat history, finding a way to reconnect with our long-lost Meridian cousins through the human bridge. Before Alex could respond, the facility's alarms blared. The Arbiter received a communication, their color shifting rapidly to alert status. It seems circumstances may force your decision, the Admiral's hologram noted calmly. Long-range sensors have detected multiple ships entering the solar system. Their configuration matches neither Concordat nor Security Division design. On the holographic display, the approaching vessels appeared elegant, powerful craft with distinctive red energy signatures pulsing along their hulls. Meridians, the Arbiter confirmed. They've finally decided to reveal themselves. Alex looked from the alien ships on the display to his own reflection in the screen, seeing himself with new eyes. The storm flying that had caught the Concordat's attention, the intuitive decisions that had confused their computers, these weren't just human traits. They were his heritage, a legacy written in his DNA from ancestors who had crossed the stars. Lieutenant Chen, Admiral Carax's hologram addressed him. It seems your real flight test is just beginning. As sirens continued to sound and personnel rushed to emergency stations, Alex made his decision. Whatever came next, diplomatic contact or renewed conflict, humanity's place among the stars would be defined not by alien agendas but by the choices they made for themselves. And he intended to ensure those choices reflected the best of both his heritages. Get me to my aircraft, he told the Arbiter. If these are my distant relatives, they should know that humans prefer to meet new family face to face. 40 minutes later, Alex soared through the upper atmosphere in an experimental aircar. Aft that represented the first true human-Concordat collaboration. The hybridizer, as the engineering team had nicknamed it, combined Earth's fighter jet designs with Concordat propulsion and shielding technology. It was faster and more maneuverable than anything humans had built before, yet still relied on a pilot's instincts rather than computer guidance. Rivera and Jackson flanked him in identical craft, along with 6 Concordat escort vessels forming a welcoming party for the approaching Meridian ships. Keep it loose, Alex advised his wingmen as they climbed above the clouds. Remember, we're diplomats today, not fighters. Diplomats with really impressive toys, Rivera responded, executing a perfect barrel roll that would have torn apart a conventional aircraft. The Arbiter's voice came through their specially designed communication system. The Meridian vessels have established orbit at the edge of your moon's gravitational field. They're requesting that Lieutenant Chen approach alone. Of course they are, Jackson muttered. Alex felt a mixture of trepidation and strange anticipation. Copy that. I'm proceeding to the coordinates. As he broke away from the formation and accelerated toward the designated meeting point, Alex reflected on how quickly everything had changed. 3 months ago, his greatest concern had been qualifying for the next round of experimental aircraft testing. Now he was humanity's representative to a long-lost alien civilization that had apparently influenced human evolution itself. The Meridian ships came into view as he approached, 5 elegant vessels arranged in a perfect star formation. Their design was unlike anything he'd seen before, with flowing lines that seemed almost liquid, pulsing with deep crimson energy. Despite their alien appearance, something about them felt oddly familiar to Alex, as though he were remembering something long forgotten rather than seeing something new. Meridian vessels, this is Lieutenant Alexander Chen of Earth. I'm approaching as requested. For several long moments, there was no response. Then a voice unlike any Alex had heard before filled his cockpit, neither male nor female, with a melodic quality that seemed to resonate directly in his mind rather than through his headset. Alexander Chen, the genetic markers are strong in you. Approach and be recognized. The central Meridian ship extended what appeared to be a docking corridor, a tube of translucent energy connecting to Alex's aircraft. Warning indicators flashed across his console as the hybridizer's systems registered the unknown field. Recommend caution, Lieutenant. Admiral Cax's voice came through, transmitted from the Concordat vessels watching at a distance. We cannot guarantee your safety if you proceed. Alex took a deep breath. Sometimes you have to fly by feel, Admiral. He guided his aircraft into the energy corridor, which enveloped the hybridizer in a cocoon of crimson light. The controls went dead in his hands as the Meridian ship took control, drawing him toward what appeared to be a landing bay. As the hybridizer settled onto the alien deck, Alex removed his helmet and oxygen mask. The air was breathable, adjusted for human physiology. They had been expecting him. The cockpit canopy dissolved rather than opened, the material simply vanishing to allow him to climb out. Alex stood on the deck of a Meridian vessel, the first human to do so in recorded history, though perhaps not the first in humanity's deeper past. The figure approached, tall and slender with features that were both alien and disturbingly familiar. Its skin had the same iridescent quality as the Concordat species, but with distinctly human-like facial structures. When it spoke, Alex recognized the voice from the transmission. The circle completes itself, the being said, gesturing around the chamber. Our ancestors visited your world when your species was young. They saw potential, the capacity for both logical analysis and intuitive leaps. They contributed genetic material to accelerate what was already beginning naturally. Why? Alex asked, finding his voice. Why interfere with our evolution? The Meridian's expression shifted to something like sadness. Because we were dying. The war with the Concordat decimated our civilization. Those who survived were scattered, diminished. We needed to preserve what we were, not just our genetic code, but our way of thinking. Humans were the perfect vessels. More Meridians entered the chamber, each studying Alex with evident curiosity. We have watched your development from afar, the first Meridian continued. We intervened only when necessary to prevent extinction events. The rest of your progress has been your own achievement. And now? Why reveal yourselves after all this time? The Meridian gestured to a viewing portal that opened in the chamber wall, showing Earth floating in the blackness of space. Because the division between the Concordat factions has created an opportunity. For millennia, the Security Division has prevented any attempt at reconciliation between our peoples. Admiral Cax's sacrifice changed that political balance. Alex processed this information, beginning to understand the scope of the galactic politics at play. So we're what, a bridge between your civilizations? You are more than that, the Meridian replied. You are our descendants, but you have become something new. You possess our creative intuition but have tempered it with compassion in ways we never achieved. You could help heal wounds that have festered for thousands of years. Over the next several hours, Alex learned the full history that had been hidden from both humans and most of the Concordat. The ancient war had been caused not by Meridian aggression as the Concordat believed, but by fear on both sides, fear of differences that could have been complementary rather than confrontational, When he finally returned to Earth, Alex brought with him not just knowledge but a formal proposal, a three-way alliance between Earth, the Concordat, and the remaining Meridians. Negotiations would be complex and likely take years, but the potential benefits were enormous: technologies beyond human imagination, protection from other galactic threats, and a head start on humanity's expansion to the stars. 6 months later, Alex stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed First Contact Station in Earth orbit. Beside him, Admiral Carax's holographic form and the Arbiter watched as a joint human Concordat Meridian science team prepared to test the first faster-than-light communication system on Earth. It all started with a storm, Alex mused, watching the activity below. One flight that showed aliens we could do the impossible. Not impossible, the Admiral corrected. Simply unpredictable. The capacity to see solutions where none appear to exist, that is humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. And the Meridian's gift to us, apparently, Alex added. The Arbiter's colors shifted to a contemplative blue. Perhaps the most valuable trait is not the Meridian creativity or Concordat logic, but the human capac. HFY to balance both. Your species stands at a unique crossroads between ways of thinking that once tore the galaxy apart. As the test began, with signals being instantaneously transmitted across the solar system, Alex thought about his fellow pilots still flying the skies below. Humans had always looked up at the stars and dreamed. Now those dreams had a new context, not just exploration and discovery, but reconnection with a legacy they never knew they had. Earth was changing rapidly, adapting to its new place in galactic civilization. There would be challenges ahead, political complications, cultural shocks. But as someone who had spent his life making split-second decisions at Mach 2, Alex had learned to focus on the opportunity rather than the obstacles. "Admiral," he said, "I think it's time we started training more pilots for these hybrid aircraft. If humans are going to be flying alongside Concordat and Meridian ships, we'll need to show them what we can really do." The Admiral's hologram smiled. "Indeed, Lieutenant Chin. The galaxy has no idea what's coming." As Earth rotated below them, its night side sparkling with the lights of human civilization, Alex couldn't help but feel that the real flight test was just beginning. Humanity had taken its first true steps into a much larger universe, one where their unique blend of calculation and intuition, caution and courage, might finally heal ancient wounds among the stars, and it had all begun with one pilot who flew by feel through an unexpected storm.